The Meta Quest 3. Is it still worth it after more than 2 years? And how good does it hold up? Let's dive right into it. Now, getting the first thing out of the way directly is that the Meta Quest 3 is still one of the best standalone VR headsets ever. And while more than 2 years have already passed since the original launch on Mark Zuckerberg's Connect event, the headset itself got so many new features, updates, and exclusive games added to it that it pretty much feels like an entirely different version compared to how it did back then. And for those who already own a Quest 3 right now, or are maybe still thinking of getting one, there are also some important things in this video towards the end that you really don't want to miss. So make sure to stick around. And let's break it all down by starting with the hardware. And what better way than to first take a look at the screen and lenses? Because the Quest 3 has a dual LCD panel with a resolution of 2064 by another 2208 pixels per eye. And this is actually pretty damn high when compared to other mid-range VR headsets. For example, the Steam Frame has the same resolution and still releases nearly 3 years later. Although, there are some higher-end VR headsets that do blow this out of the water. Think about the Samsung Galaxy XR or even the Apple Vision Pro, since these headsets both have micro OLED panels instead, with nearly double the resolution and pixels. But of course, they also come in at least 4 times the price of that of Quest 3. So keep that in mind. Now secondly, the lenses of the Quest 3 are also known as the new industry standard pancake optics. And these can give you that nice big sweet spot, as well as a reduction in God rays while you're gaming, compared to the older Fresnel lenses. So that makes them on par with even the most expensive headsets out there. Now, when we're moving on to the front of the device, we can also quickly spot the built-in camera units here. And those are essential for the Quest 3's mixed reality features. So to explain this basically means that next to them tracking your controllers and headset position, these cameras are also capable of showing your real-life surroundings in full color and even let you use them for things like mixed reality games or tracking of your hands. Although, 2 years ago at launch, this feature was plagued with intense warping and some big issues when it came to the accuracy of the tracking itself. Luckily though, with its many software updates, most of these issues have been fixed already for quite some time, which also in response led to a big increase in mixed reality applications on the Horizon store page. Just keep in mind though, that it might not replace your computer just yet, because while you can now read some smaller text from your PC more easily, the details are sometimes still difficult to make out because of its resolution limitations. But maybe even more important is the processor that runs this entire device. Now, the Quest 3 is rocking the Snapdragon XR2 Gen 2 chip, which holds up pretty well to today's standards. Because while, for example, the previously mentioned Samsung Galaxy XR does have the newer XR2 Plus Gen 2 version running it, it still doesn't really make use of it or justify that price point, especially with the amount of CPU and GPU increase that comes with it. But surprisingly though, the Quest 3's chipset is also the same one that we can find in the Meta Quest 3S. And that one caused quite a bit of confusion for a lot of people, because when Meta announced the Quest 3S nearly a year later, the naming of it almost made it sound like it would be superior to the original Quest 3. However, to clear this up, this is not the case at all. And instead, the Meta Quest 3S is the more budget-friendly version of the OG Quest 3. So to clarify this further, while it does have the same XR2 Gen 2 processor, the 3S has for example a lower resolution screen, while also still using the older previously mentioned Fresnel lenses. So that makes the Quest 3 itself still the highest end standalone headset in Meta's lineup. But moving on, we should also not forget to talk about the battery life, because the built-in one will give you about 2.5 hours of use on a single charge. And this can fall a bit short if you want to use it for longer playing sessions. However, if you are for example also recording your gameplay at the same time, then this will probably even come closer to a 1.5 hour mark instead. Luckily though, there are also some easy solutions out there to fix this. For example, you could upgrade your headset with a battery head strap that can easily double this original capacity, as well as improving your overall comfort by replacing those original soft dual bands. Since as most users know, these can get pretty painful after a while of using them. Either way, next to all these hardware specs we just discussed, we should also talk about probably the most important thing of all, and that is the games. Because the Quest 3 is known for its absolute massive library of VR experiences, as well as having some big exclusives that you can't find anywhere else. And that can go all the way from immersive virtual reality titles to some mixed reality experiences that you can play in your own living room. But over time, Meta also released some big titles that quickly became must-plays for nearly all Quest users. So some examples of games that you don't want to miss are things like Arcane Age, which is a single-player adventure that got some of the most insane boss fights in all of VR, and Dungeons of Eternity, which has you battle it out in ever-changing levels, either in solo or co-op mode. But also things like Bone Lab, which is a combination of a sandbox and campaign experience with hyper-realistic physics, or even Deadpool VR, that lets you finally embody the anti-hero himself in virtual reality. And that is just to name a few. But there are of course also a lot of classics, such as Beat Saber, Blade and Sorcery Nomad, Batman Arkham Shadow, Resident Evil 4, or even The Walking Dead Saint and Sinners, with many more to be found depending on the type of games that you enjoy. Now best of all, you can also always use the code VRelity on any Quest Store game, which will get you anywhere between 10 and 20% off of your total price. So hopefully that can save you a lot of money at least. Either way, let me also know what you think are some must-play games for the Meta Quest 3. And if those experiences are somehow still not enough, then it is also good to know that you can play PC VR games on your Quest 3 too. Now to do this, you will have to hook up either your headset to a computer by cable or by using a wireless connection. And when doing so, you can get access to the entire Steam VR library as well. So that means you can dive into games like Half-Life Alyx and so much more. And that makes the Quest 3 a real hybrid VR headset. But that gets us to the software. Now the Meta Quest 3's operating system, known as Horizon OS, has seen quite a lot of changes over the past 2 years. And this goes from the introduction of the optional yet controversial navigator system to its new home environments that finally will let you walk around its entire place. However, there are also still some things that were promised that haven't materialized just yet. For example, the long-promised augments that would let you customize your home more similarly to that of the original Rift still haven't arrived at all. But at least, that also means we have something to look forward to in the future. And next up, we should also talk about its price, because the Quest 3 comes in at a total of $500 for its 512GB model. And what you might not know yet is that this is actually quite a big reduction over the original launch 2 years ago, when it came in at a whopping cost of $650 instead. But another big tip that many people don't know is that you can also get $30 of free store credit with your Quest 3 itself. And this, you can spend however you want. So to get this, I will leave the special link down in the description below so that you can make sure not to miss out on this. But that also gets us to the final conclusion. Now, the Meta Quest 3 is an awesome VR headset that manages to keep up really well with its competition, even 2 years after it originally got launched. And since Meta has already announced that they won't be showing off any Quest 4 successor until at least 2026, it means that the Quest 3 will still keep receiving support and updates for multiple years to come. So that makes it still more than worth it for quite some time. And of course even more so with the previously mentioned free store credit that you can get with the link in the description below. But that is not all, because if you want to see a more direct comparison between the Meta Quest 3 and the Steam Frame VR headset from Valve, then click on the video that you see on screen right now to make sure you don't miss out on that. And of course, stay awesome.